Okay, we are Mpaka Creations on Instagram, we are Esther Mpaka on Facebook, and centered of just one word. The Bible says that the mercies of the Lord are new every morning, and He is also the fourth man in that fiery furnace you are in. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Tumefikia hapo mahali a woman comes, you welcome, your mother welcomes her, and then you discover she's just another trouble.
Yes.
What does that do to you?
So when she comes, of course it was a very bitter pill for us to swallow, and I remember my mom walked away at that moment na akaenda, because of course it was heavy on her, and of course to us it was, and that time you look so confused, but you are a child, you just have to accept whatever your dad brings on table, and yeah, we just had to swing with it. So when this lady came, that is when the family ni kama ilitaniwa hivi kwa sasa, it's two different worlds, because now my dad, all his attention, all his responsibility, all his love went to the other family. So for us, we were like a by the way to him. And I tell you, after being on that double room, I remember we went to a self-contained house, which it was 2-bedroom, and we thought at least atakama basi have kuteka another woman, we will have peace, we will live by our own, hakutakuwa na vita kila wakati.
At that time ulikuwa mmeprove anaiba ama bado hamejaprove anaiba?
Tulikuwa na hiyo nini bado, yeah, but bado haija to hit kabisa until we were in this self-contained. So tukiwa hapo tukafeel now, I think now at least we are here, wacha aende ataende kabisa, because at least tutakuwa na peace of mind. But I tell you, it was the beginning of trouble. And when we were in that self-contained house, I remember that is when we started having attention of the CIDs and the policemen. Every time wako kwa mlango, every time wako kwa dirisha, tunatafuta Kimani. And now that is when it really hit us, like, by the way, our dad is ni mwizi. And I tell you, especially for me, because we are so very close with my mom, even till date, and every time something will happen, angekuja share, because you see now it was too heavy on her, this information, to a point of, it is not something good to go and share it with them.
Hata mtaki watu wajue.
Even my siblings, I remember we used to cover my dad up like all the time, because unaona wakati maybe wameenda wameiba, because walikuwa naiba magari, utapata kama wameiba Kisumu wataenda wajifiche sijui Mombasa, kama wameiba Mombasa wataenda wajifiche sijui wapi. So watu wao wamezoea, hata kama mzae ako absent kwa life zetu, at least he calls and anasema anataka kuongea na sisi. But now everything is changing.
So when was he eventually arrested?
At some point, I remember they had gone to steal somewhere. I think it was in Eldoret. And whatever happened. Ilikuwa tu ni bahati yake, because I don't know what told him to sit at the back. And when this incident happened, I think alilala kwa mtaro or something. Now this is according to how our stepmother used to give us, because stepmother alikuwa updated on everything. Everywhere my dad would go, alikuwa
anamsaidia kuiba.
I think alikuwa tu na connection, so somehow connected. But she was not part of it, I think, kwa ground, but she was somehow connected with their friends and everything. And after ya mejificha, and at some point wakakuja wakarealize, because that day that incident happened, kila mtu aliuawa mwenye alikuwa kwa gari, apart from my dad, because this was a car stolen, and mwenye alibiwa ile dawa yake ilisha haraka, akaamka and akarealize nini imeenda, and he had to call and say gari yangu imeibiwa na number plate ni hii. So this policeman said we are going to block kuenda Nairobi na kuenda past Eldoret, and that is how they got caught. But for him, I think alijificha, and then at some point akakuja akakuwa realize that kuna mwenye alibaki, akakuja akakuwa ni kama most wanted, alikuwa anatafutwa, hata place alipatikana, I think alipigwa mob justice, ndio akakuwa rescued with the police.
Akapelekwa sasa kwa jela.
Yes, akapelekwa Eldoret prison.
Na hapo nyuma kidogo kabla uendelee, kuna kitu ilikuhapenia kwa life yako, because you just said about this woman used to update you. Yes. There's a time you had talked about looking for school fees and money, and you went to your father's to ask him for money.
Yes.
Kulienda aje?
So what happened is, of course, I was so much affected to a point of I started doing drugs, and I started doing drugs when I was in class 7, because all these things zilikuwa zinahappen around hapo, and time yenye nilikuwa namaliza class 8 and I'm approaching form 1, of course, you know, you have to prepare in advance, nini. But at this point, I'm trying to reach out to my dad, but he's nowhere to be found, because of course, pia his lines alikuwa akipiga simu anatupa hiyo line. So unless he calls, you cannot get him kwa rahisi unless you reach out to the stepmother. And at this time, I'm trying to reach him out, and he's like, you know, utaniambia venye ndatumia pesa zangu, usini nini, usini. You know, it was so
change to
yeah, change. And for me, when nilikuja nikaona hiyo love haiko, I felt so distracted. That is when I thought that doing drugs, that would be a way of me to escape whatever I'm going through. And at this particular point, all this is happening, and one day anakuja na to visit after life imetugonga kwa ile self-contained, na there is no peace, there is no nothing. Life alikuja akaacha kulipa nyumba and everything, tukaenda tukahamia single room tena, so squeezed and everything. I used to call it a cube. So wakati akaoneshwa mali tulikuwa tunaishi, and I remember he had like 2 visits, and the third visit, it is when I was so excited after seeing him, and I thought sasa hii school fees imekam, because mind you nilika almost 1 year nje bila kwenda shule, and at that point we even went and worked as housemates with my mom so that we can be able to raise school fees. That lady we were working for akasema tumemuibia, and we had to go back to hizo mashida zetu.
And people would believe, which will believe Mamuibia, because if your dad was a thief, then she can just say you guys are thieves.
Of course, that particular time hakuwa anajua, because we never exposed to anyone, but juu unapitia shida, of course you'll be the one nini.
So what did your dad do?
Yeah, so at this particular point, anakuja akakelea do kwa meza, and he's claiming that me and my mom tunafanya prostitution. Like it was just a bad picture. And I remember our siblings were there, and like the brother mwenye amenifuata alikuwa like, baba mbona unachapa msona hajafanya makosa? Akaambia stupid, hebu wewe lala, wewe ndio umechapwa. And from that moment akaniambia hizi ni pesa niko nazo, from today you either go choose be a prostitute, a housemaid or a chokora, yenye utaona itakufit, go and do any of nini. And that was the last encounter I had with my dad. And from then I remember he even called the stepmother and told her, I want you to go to the club and start ordering, I'm coming. And that is how he went.
The next thing you heard now is when he had been now arrested in Eldoret.
Yes.
Oh, okay, now we have connected back to there.
So after that point, of course, unakaa hivi and you're just having your moment, and you're like, by the way, I think I'm not worth this world, I'm not worth even kwenda shule. I think anyway the prostitution really fits me well. I think yo chokora really, like a lot of things were going on through my mind. And I remember this time my mom comes at home, she's very excited, and ako like amepata at least 5,000, and anapata a very bad atmosphere, and she's like, what is happening, is everything okay? And mi nakumbuka zile words za mwisho, go be nini. So whenever I was trying to tell her what had happening, nilikuwa nachokiwa na kilio na shindwa kuongea. So my brother was the one who told him whatever had happened. My mom was like, are you sure? Amekuja hapa akaonyesha pesa. Akaniambia tupige magoti tuombe hiyo pesa. Pesa hiyo nishangujua. And from then, that is now after like a month or so, tukasikia he was arrested. And I tell you, I was very bitter with my dad. And after hearing that he was arrested, I was like, why haven't they killed him? That guy deserves to die. Like he's supposed to rot in. I was so bitter with my dad. I was like, he's even not supposed to be on this earth. Ama mimi niende kwa makaroni wambe nipatie gani muue. Like I don't, there is no difference of telling people that I have a dad and my dad is dead. That's how bitter I was with him. And I remember at that point, of course, through that journey and the drug, when nilikuwa na struggle na drugs, I used to have friends who used to come and tell me, Dama, you need kuokoka, manzi uko so talented, why are you doing this to your life? But they never understood what I was going through, because none of anybody, I used to tell them that whatever was happening at home. I remember a lot of people even around where we were staying walikuwa nani judge, because mimi nilikuwa na chana hata kwa barabara kama mtu don't care, na kuja nikiwa makali.
Kwa hiyo by your own father, unajua it still doesn't matter.
Yeah, una feel like this is your own parent, not even your step, but your own parent. So watu kwa barabara walikuwa like, huyu hata kazi yake ni kukaa na wanaume huku atapata mimba nini. I was like, you guys continue talking. At the end of the day, it's my life.
So what was your turning point?
So my turning point was one day nimekaa tu nimejitayarisha na ngoja kwenda sherehe kama kawaida. And this time it was a little bit different because nimekaa tu but phone call haiko imeingia. And then at this particular point nikiwa nyumbani, I felt like I was having a conversation with someone I was not seeing. And this person was really challenging me to a point I started crying. Na sijaguzwa, anything. Yes, I just started crying.
Radi japigwa.
Tarumba hata ijalia. So I just started crying, and I remember it left me with one option, and it was like, Dama, you need to give your life to Christ. And I had sikupigana na hiyo sauti. Sikupigana nayo. It was like, yes, I really need to know this. And like, I used to hate God, I used to hate church, but I really want to know this God. And I remember I unblocked one of my friends, alikuwa anaitwa Jemo, nikamwambia Jemo, nataka unisaidie kuokoka. And he was like, Dama, you know you are always a joker, unaweza kuokoka leo backslide kesho, so this time unajua. And I was like, si wewe umenitafuta na mimi nimekutafuta, so I need you to help me. And the guy immediately he began sending me some Bible verses, you know, some prayers, and he was like, nataka kukuinvite kuna event fulani kwa hii church nini. And I tell you, Esther, transition yangu ili happen so fast. Unaonanga venye watu usema, unajua hata kama ulikuwa na addictive na hii kitu, utaenda ukiacha pole pole. Kama ulikuwa unakunywa Guinness 2 utakunywa moja.
Ya Mungu anafanyanga hivi.
It never took that time for me. Like it started immediately. Nilikuwa nasikia harufu ya bangi, nasikia inanirritate. Naona mtu akichana na muhurumia, you know. And through that journey that you walked with me and an invite kwa church events and all that, that is when I got saved, like confessing. And it was in 2015, 25th December. Actually, siku yenye Yesu alikuwa anazaliwa. That is one thing that I love so much with the yes. So that is when I got saved. But remember, wanasemanga ukiokoka the old is gone and the new has come. So remember this time, so of course journey yangu shule inaendelea, and I started becoming this prayerful person, and I fast and everything, I'm reading the word. And I tell you, every time I used to sleep, like I used to dream with my dad amekufa. And I was like, ilikuwa inanisumbua. You know, dreaming consecutive, like mara 3 zimefuatana, like babako amekufa, ilianza kunisumbua. And at some point, every time I used to pray, say niko hapo, God, I pray for our country, kitu inakam, forgive your dad. Esther naenda kwa bafu kuoga kawaida, forgive your dad. You know, like every time, like mostly when I used to pray, it used to disturb me. I'm praying for something, but inakuja tu inanihit, forgive your dad. And nilikuwa nakaa chini nasema, God, kama kuna kitu moja nilisema sitawahi fanya kwa hii maisha, it's to forgive my dad. But I tell you, that conviction was strong. Ilikuwa like, yo, I'm not leaving you. Either uende kwa choo, ende wapi, I will follow you. You have to forgive your dad.
So how did you forgive him? During that thing, you just felt like, because somebody is watching who is so bitter, and they're trying to find a formula of forgiving someone.
Hata sikubishana, it was a very short prayer. I was like, God, if it's your will for me to forgive my dad, let your will be done. As short as that, and I cried for long. And let me tell you, immediately after confessing those words, and it was very genuine from my heart, I felt like something was really holding me tight. Ilinitoka. Yes, ilinitoka completely, and I think that's why I cried so much. And I was like, I really need to go and even visit my dad and tell him I have forgiven him.
Wow, I can't believe that time is up. We are going to call you back for another interview concerning your musical journey. And for us, we are Mpaka Creations on Instagram, Esther Mpaka on Facebook, and Center Top, just one.